All right, y'all. How are you all doing today? How many of you all are free worshipers? And what that means is I'm not going to let anybody hinder me or stop me from worshiping God. So if you're a free worshiper, I want you to write chat in the thing, uh, chat on Facebook Live or in Zoom. That's me. That's me. I see you, Kristen. Okay. I see you. I see you. Yeah, chat in, chat in. I see you. Great, great. Yeah. Just say I'm a free worshiper and I'm not going to let anyone hinder me from worshiping God. I see you, Antoine. Okay. I see you, Caitlin. Okay. I see you. I see you. I see you. I see you, Minister Karen on Facebook Live. I see you, Minister Kathleen Rogers on Facebook Live. I see you. I see you. I see you, Miss Lakeisha on Facebook Live. I see you, Josh Malone. I see you. I see you, Ariel. Okay, I see you, Lauren. I see you, Doing. I see you, Olden family. I see you. Okay. Yeah. So, hey, we want you to chat. I see you, Nia. Come on now. Okay, I see you. I see you. I see you, Angela. I see you, Derica, okay, I got you. Yeah, I see you, Delisha. Okay, yeah, I see you, Miss Hudson. Come on. Yeah, we free worshipers, right? So we're so glad that you guys are here with us today. We're so excited about today. We're going to continue this conversation. But before I continue this conversation, I do want to formally invite our sixth graders. We have some amazing sixth graders who transition from fifth grade to sixth grade with students, and all of you sixth graders and your sixth grade parents. And we just want to say welcome to Faith Chapel students. We're so happy that you're with us. We started this series months ago called The Reset, right? And so if y'all could just type in welcome sixth graders, welcome sixth graders. We're so glad to have you, whether you're on Facebook Live, whether you're on Zoom. We're so happy to have you. And we want to say thank you to whatever grade you're in, middle school, high school. We still have some college students that kind of connect with us as well. We want to say, hey, we're so excited to have you, and we're so honored on behalf of our senior director, Minister Karen Malone, Dr. Angela Hill, and myself, directors of students, and our Faith Chapel students team. We just want to say welcome. We're so glad to have you. Oh, we're so glad to have you. We started this conversation months ago, sixth graders. You can go um, in the parents page, you can ask your parents to join our Faith Chapel students parents page, and you can go back and look at the previous lessons. So we can't go back to all of them, but we do want to kind of bring you up to speed to where we're going today. We're going to continue this conversation on racism, and we have an amazing guest who's going to be with us today. His name is Ben Shaka. He was here with us last month, and he's going to be with us today. I see some of you all saying, welcome, Mr. Ben. Yeah. So we're so excited to have him. But before he comes on, I want to give you guys our background scripture. Our background scripture is Luke chapter 4, verse 18. We kind of dived in, we kind of jumped into this scripture. And so in this scripture, it says, the Spirit of the Lord is on me. He has chosen me to tell good news. God, see, when you ask Jesus coming on the inside of you, Jesus, he has empowered you. You are equipped, right? And so Jesus had come on the scene, and he was empowered by God, and he was equipped to tell the good news to the poor. He was equipped to tell prisoners that they can go free. Um, he was equipped to tell the blind that they could see again. He was telling them that God sent me to free those who have been treated badly. And so we're going to talk about uh, continue this conversation on racism, and we're going to dive a little deeper with Mr. Ben. And so, but one of the things that verse 19, one version says he came to declare the year of Jubilee. This version here says, and to announce that the time has come for the Lord to show his kindness. God is here to show his kindness to those who have been treated badly. And his kindness has always been there, but he wants to show his kindness, and he wants to use us to show his kindness to those who have been treated badly, right? So we talked about what a reset is, and a reset is to set, to adjust, and to fix in a different way. Before we jump into Mr. Ben, I want to find out how you feeling. How are you feeling? So choose one of those emojis to let us know how you're feeling at this moment. You happy? Are you happy? Are you angry? Are you upset? Are you feeling a little silly? Are you feeling nervous, surprised, frustrated? Let's just hear from you. We want to hear from you at this time. We want to hear from you. How are you feeling? What's going on with you? You know, we can't see you. I see my sister Krista said happy. Omari says happy. Okay, cool. How are you feeling at this moment? I see some people on happy. I got you, Josh. Happy, grinning from cheek to cheek. Caitlin, happy. Ariel, happy. Okay, cool. Dorothy, happy. Okay, cool. I see some happiness going on, right? That's what's up. That's great. That's great. Happy. Okay, cool. Nice. Nice. So, somebody say hungry. Okay. My man Jay say a little. Okay. Okay. Ariana says happy. Okay, cool. I see Minister Karen say happy. Okay, cool, on Facebook Live. Okay, cool. So we're excited. We just wanted to hear how you guys are feeling. Want to kind of, as much as possible, try to connect with you as much as possible, because we miss y'all. We miss seeing you all and touching you all, but we want to make sure that you stay safe, right? I see Tammy says she happy. Okay, nice on Facebook Live. Come on, Facebook Live, come on through. Miss Serena says she happy. Come on. Miss Kathleen says she's happy. Come on. All right, we got some happy people in the place. That's what's up. Cool. So so we're gonna go into this talk, right? So let's talk. We're gonna bring on Mr. Ben. Mr. Ben, we're so excited that you're back with us again. It's such an honor and a privilege to have you with us, Mr. Ben. So can you all kind of clap in and just say, hey, Mr. Just kind of clap and welcome him into our world today. What up, Mr. Ben? What's up? I think we got some emoji claps. You doing all right, Mr. Ben?
I'm doing well. This is a real honor and privilege to be back. I'm really honored that you guys would ask me to come back a second time. So thank you for this opportunity.
Oh man, we're so glad to have you. Hey, Mr. Ben, I know you mentioned last month about your book, but I wanted to bring it up again, and I wanted them to, because we have some new people that are on, and so I just want you to give a brief synopsis of the book again, and how you even what gave you the inspiration to even write the book. So it's a great book, guys. I've read it. It's super great. And so and it leaves you, I'm just gonna say this, it leaves you at the end like, is that it? What's coming next? So it was so great. So Ms. Ben, can you kind of let them know a little bit about the inspiration of the book?
Yeah, so some of you know, I shared last time, I worked at Restoration Academy for about 18 years, located in Fairfield. My wife and our 4 kids, we live in Inslee, and been here almost 20 years. And so just had the real privilege and honor of living in diverse space. I grew up in a predominantly white community, but I've just been so grateful for the opportunity to live now in much more diverse space. And like a lot of people, just was really burdened, saddened, and confused by just so much of the racialized police brutality and just so much stuff going on in our country. Just seeing a lot of people, even people within the Christian faith, that were arguing and having very different viewpoints and all of this. So I do love to write. I think it's a talent that God has given me. And so I just decided to try to write a story that would kind of have some imaginative space of what it would be like if an 18-year-old African-American young man was essentially stuck for about 24 hours with an affluent, kind of wealthy white lawyer in a setting where basically they have no technology, cell phones don't work, and they're in kind of this, they're trapped together. And I won't tell you how that happened because that'll kind of spoil some of the story. But what would they talk about? Essentially, what would they argue about? How would they see things from two very different perspectives? And so my hope was that maybe through a story, it might get into some very uncomfortable conversations with two very unlikely people having an opportunity to really share what's on their heart and on their mind. Sometimes I think we kind of get into space, at least I have sometimes in my life, where I'm mainly with people who look like, think like, approach life the same, and I'm not necessarily being shaped by that at all. It's actually just hearing some of my own same thoughts or their same thoughts. I think when God gifts us to be in diverse space, it really helps us. So yeah, so it's just a creative story. It moves along pretty quickly. For those of you who like to read, it doesn't take too long to get through it. And I've been grateful from African Americans and white folks who have read it and have said the book really challenged them. It made them uncomfortable in some spaces, but they also found the story very entertaining as well, which I hope it would be. So yeah, that's kind of the quick shout out for the book.
I appreciate it, Mr. Ben. Can you tell us where we can get the book? What avenues or spaces we can get the book?
Probably the easiest place would be just right off Amazon. You can get it, I think if you have a Kindle, it's only $2.99 on Kindle, so that's pretty cheap. But you can buy the book there, and then also Nav Press, NAVpress.com has it for the cheapest. It was published with Nav Press. So, but if you want to get it quickly, Amazon would be the best spot.
Got it. So, Mr. Ben, I'm trying to navigate from Facebook and Zoom, but Facebook, they all say welcome. They saying welcome back. We're so happy to have you. So I just want you to know that our Facebook family is saying hello to you as well. Yeah. Hey, Mr. Ben, you kind of said something. Do you? And this wasn't one of our questions that we talked about, but I did think about. Do you feel? From a, just in case you all didn't know, Mr. Ben is white, and so you can laugh, y'all. But do you know why it's sometimes challenging for white people to kind of discuss race? It's not all, but do you know why that tension is there for some? Can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think it touches on a little bit of what I said, is that some of it is that for the most part, Birmingham is still very segregated in the sense that we don't live in very diverse communities for the most part. I think a lot of white folks that when we use the over the mountain rhetoric, a lot of folks on the other side of the mountain probably, not all, like you said, but a lot of them, the way that they've had history explained to them was that kind of things got worked out during the civil rights movement with Dr. King and Rosa Parks and the other leaders, and essentially, segregation ended and African Americans could vote, and now things are kind of better. It's really more, it's not like it used to be. And so when we talk about race or we talk about things today, it's kind of like, why are we talking about that? We kind of got all that worked out back in the 60s, which I don't believe. But I think a lot of it is, like I said, is that if people are not in diverse space, if they don't have close friendship and companionship with people of other ethnicities and races, then they're not going to really have firsthand knowledge or accounts of what a lot of people go through on a regular basis. And so they're going to base a lot of their insight and knowledge off of just the news or what other people in their family or community are saying. And there literally is not any firsthand knowledge of the other side of reality at all. And so I do think you will run into some white folks who essentially are just like, I don't want to talk about this, or I don't know why we keep talking about this. Because again, in their viewpoint, yes, there's been bad racial history in this country, but most of that got worked out already. And so we don't really, it's not really a problem anymore, other than that there might be individual racist white people that are still out there, but racism itself is not really a problem like it used to be. And we could go pretty deep in it, but probably just don't necessarily acknowledge that there's systemic racism, there's systems and laws and different things that are not set up in a way that's equitable or just. And so sometimes there's a denial of that. Racism is just seen as individual actions. Like I could be racist, but racism itself is kind of, for the most part, gone. There can be individual people that have that in their heart. So
I
hopefully that
appreciate
makes
you.
sense.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing and you being so open and transparent. And I love your heart. Your heart is for people, and I think it's just so um, amazing and incredible. Hey, guys, we want you to type in questions that you may have. So if you type in your questions, whether it's on Facebook Live or on Zoom, we're going to try to get to some of your questions. But one of the things we didn't really dive into last time that Mr. Ben wants, we want to kind of touch is the Black Lives Matter, and that they matter every day. You know, young people, have y'all ever heard or seen this phrase, Black Lives Matter? And what does that mean to you? I do want to hear from Mr. Ben because, you know, me as a Black person, of course, I'm thinking Black Lives Matter, you know, and the importance of the statement that Black lives do matter and why we are saying it. It's very important to know why we're not just saying it just to be saying it, just uh, because God created all. And so, and all Blacks are included. And so, I don't want to dive into your answer, Mr. Ben, but can you kind of touch from your perspective what that means to you?
Mm-hmm. Well, one, you know, this is, like you said, it's a big question. So I don't know if we're able to totally unpack all of it. And secondly, I don't want to pretend I'm an expert on anything, but yeah, I think the phrase itself is very important. Black Lives Matter. I think I'm a person who loves words, you know, I like to write. So when we think for just a moment about the word matter, what matters to you? What matters to me is there things that are important. They're things that have value. They're things that we want to protect and to preserve. I love that you started this with Luke chapter 4, because Jesus in that statement, if you notice, prisoners, the oppressed, the downtrodden, in those verses, those are some of my favorite scriptures. That's Jesus' first publicly recorded sermons. He's saying these people matter. These are the type of people that I came for, prisoners and to those that have been treated unfairly, I think was the translation. And so, yeah, I mean, I think the statement is drawing attention to the fact that for hundreds of years in this country, there has been a narrative or a perspective that Black lives don't matter as much or they don't matter at all. And so the women who started the organization after Trayvon Martin's killer, Zimmerman, was exonerated, were essentially the hashtag basically like, hey, we're out here, we matter. Like, it's time that Americans notice that this stuff matters. And so I think it's so important. I think obviously it's become increasingly very polarized. You got a lot of people that are very frustrated with it because they see it as saying, they're adding words to it like Black Lives Matter more, you know, or that's not what the statement's about, but they're adding stuff to it. Or there is some controversy within even Christian circles with the organization itself, just for some of the other things that they also stand for, that some Christians are like, I can't be a part of that. That's not as much lined up with scripture. However, I think the phrase, man, is very important. I use it. I want people to be aware of that. I think it's something that in the country and the way that we're living today, it just draws attention to the right things. For an organization and for people to even have to say that is telling, because there's a lot of folks like with what's going on in the country, it doesn't seem like we matter very much. The way people respond, particularly to the police brutality incidents, they've said, this just doesn't, I'm just going to write that one off. This is another situation. I don't care. I think a lot of folks are saying enough is enough on that. And you're seeing a global response. I mean, people in Europe, all around the world are beginning to use this phrase. I've seen it on soccer jerseys in England, professional athletes. So I think there's a lot of people that are, now saying we want to make this message, if nothing else, this message itself needs to be out there. And I do think that anytime you see people are being marginalized or oppressed, Jesus might not use this exact phrase, but I think if he was walking the streets of 2020, I think Jesus would be bringing attention to these very same issues.
Yeah, I agree, Mr. Ben. And so, so with that being said, there's this other thing that kind of comes up, right? Where people start saying that all lives matter. And so, is this phrase helpful during this time?
So I think when I think about that phrase, I think any of us could pause for a moment and like, if we're as Christians, I think we would all have to say, yes, all lives matter, right? Because I mean, if there's one text, if anybody would stop any of us on the street and just said, hey, why does human life matter at all, period? I think I would take them to Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 and 27, where God, when he's making us, you and me and the human race, he's saying that we're made in the image of God. Okay, so the phrase that is the imago Dei, we are made in God's image. Animals are not made in his image. The creation, nature, the stars, the planets, none of that is made in his image, but you and I are. Like, we literally image God on earth. So every life matters, right? And so if you look at Jesus' commandment to us to love your neighbor as yourself, he doesn't say love people who look like you yourself or think like you yourself, the way you would love yourself, but love all people yourself. And really, a neighbor is the next person I run into is my neighbor. You're my neighbor, I'm your neighbor. So what I would say though, is where I don't feel like this, all that to say, yes, I think that is true in principle, okay, but it's not true in practice. Does that make sense? So
That makes sense.
yes,
That's good.
all lives matter. Absolutely, all lives matter. According to God, he's told us that from the beginning, but there is, again, a narrative and there's a way that life is lived out in the day to day where that is not being shown in practice. Certain people groups it's been demonstrated to them for centuries or beyond, you don't matter as much, or you matter for this particular purpose, but you don't matter the same. And so I really think that's where when a lot of white folks you'll hear shouting, all lives matter, all lives matter. Okay, great, that is true, but that doesn't erase the fact that what the Black Lives Matter movement is saying is that we're saying the narrative of what we're experiencing in America is demonstrating Black lives don't matter as much. And so we were drawing attention to that. It was kind of like, real quick, I don't want to go too long, but like when I shared a month ago, when I was sharing from 1 Corinthians 12, like where Paul is talking about the bodies, like if you hurt your finger, right? That's like one of those things where the whole body rallies to that and stops doing what it's doing to protect that finger. You may have heard this analogy, but if my house was on fire right now, like burning to the ground, I called the fire department. I'm like, hey, y'all got to get down here. My house is burning down. And they're like, oh, whoa, chill out. All houses matter. all houses matter. You're like, whoa, no, I know. Yeah, all houses do matter, but my house is on fire. Like, I need you to get down here. And so I think that's more of like kind of summing it up, is where the Black Lives Matter movement, or at least a lot of folks, I can't speak for everybody, obviously, but I think a lot of folks like, yes, all lives matter, but our house is on fire, essentially right now. So we're drawing attention to that. And I think that's important.
I love it, Mr. Ben. I love I understand your transparency and your authenticity. It's just so refreshing. There's a question that came up that says, Mr. Ben, have you ever witnessed a racist problem where you work?
A racist problem where I work. Not well, mainly with my students. I mean, the students that I taught, many of them on a pretty regular basis experience racism, just being in different parts of town, whether it was just being followed around by security at certain places where they were shopping. I had a former student that was working at a fitness center across town, and he was staying with a family that lived over there for the summer, and he got pulled over by the police 3 times just riding his bike to work. You know, the police are like, what are you doing over here? Why are you here? So it was really more the stories of people that I was sharing life with, again, neighbors, students, just people I love and care about that would recount their stories that had happened to them very recently that were unfortunate, usually involving police or security or just employees at places of business and such.
Got it. Okay, thank you for answering that question. So, Ms. Ben, there's a scripture you wanted to kind of talk about before we kind of jump into some other questions. Did you want to talk these scriptures, or you want to jump into the questions first, or do the questions
This
connect with
this is this is your show, man. Whatever direction you want to go, I'm happy. So yeah, I
it?
definitely want to talk about the scripture, but we can save that for the end or whatever you think is best.
Got it. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, no, it's fine. You go ahead and jump into this scripture. Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
Yeah. Well, I'll try to move through this quickly. I love this scripture, y'all. This is one of my favorite verses. This is Jesus teaching on the Sermon on the Mount. But for a lot of you that are young people, as you're kind of getting to know the Lord and growing in your faith, you may be like I was years ago when I was a young person and kind of trying to figure out like, hey, what am I supposed to do in this world as broken as it is, and with all of the things that I'm facing, and there's so many questions and concerns, like what do I do? And I want to kind of flip this for you. I hope this is of value, but I think sometimes we ask the wrong question. What Jesus is telling you and I in this verse is not so much what we're supposed to do, but who we are supposed to be. Okay, there's a huge difference to that. Doing is all about the actions and the rights and the wrongs, but when Jesus tells us who we are, I can wake up every day and I already kind of know my role in his story, right? I already know my character. If this was a movie, like I know who I am. And in this passage, in verse 9 of Matthew 5, Jesus is saying, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. And one of the things that when you see that word peacemaker is that is a noun, not a verb. He's telling you, hey, you are a peacemaker. Ben Shaka, you are a peacemaker. And I love the word peace. It comes from a Hebrew word called shalom. You may have heard this word before, shalom. But this word is so beautiful. What it means, shalom means is a harmony and a delight in all of your relationships. I'm gonna say that again. It's a harmony and a delight in all of your relationships. Now you think about any relationships right now you have with family, friends, people in your neighborhood, whatever. How many of us would say, well, I have harmony and delight in all of those relationships? How many of you have harmony and delight in your own life right now with yourself, a relationship just with yourself? And what God is telling you, he's saying, hey, you are a shalom maker. And this is where it gets kind of crazy for me, is that peace can only be made where it's missing. I want you to think about that for me. You only make peace where it's missing. If peace already exists, you don't have to make peace there. So this means that when we wake up each day, God has built you and I. When he wakes us up in the morning, it's another day where he's inviting us to make harmony and delight in the relationships where we find ourselves. That's really exciting. Like where we find brokenness, we enter into that to bring peace, whatever that might look like, to bring kindness, to bring gentleness, to bring hope, to bring the things that the world right now is saying is missing. And sometimes we confuse that with peacekeeping. Peacekeeping is not necessarily bad, but it's not what God is talking about. I just want to break it down real quickly. Peacekeeping is when it's basically when I get a certain amount of harmony and delight from myself, then I spend the rest of my days trying to protect you, other people from getting into my space and taking that from me or from my family. And so it's a very protective mindset where I was like, I already got my peace. So y'all just kind of stay out of my way because you're going to take it from me or you're going to make me uncomfortable. And the thing that where Jesus really kind of concludes this with us, which is so cool, is if you look at this teaching here, he says, not only are we blessed if we're peacemakers, but look what he calls us. He says, you shall be called sons and daughters of God, right? And this is what's really cool is he's saying, if you live out your role as a peacemaker, the world will see you as my family. The world will witness you as my family. What was one of Jesus's key names? He's the Prince of what? Peace. He's the Prince of Peace. That's how he identified himself to the world. And you think about Jesus was all up in eternity, chilling, comfortable, in heaven. And what did he do for you and me? He went out where there was no peace, took on human flesh, dwelt among us, died on a cross for the sins that we deserve that death. So he's already demonstrated it for us. So he's saying, hey, you guys live as peacemakers and the world will see you as my family. So I hope that encourages you and challenges you that even as a young person, you might feel overwhelmed and you don't always have to have all the answers, but just wake up and say, God, all right, I'm a peacemaker today. Show me what that means. Show me what that means to live in that space and to be that in a world that really, really needs it. So I just wanted to share that scripture with y'all today to encourage you and to challenge you too, because it's a challenge. So thank you, Pastor Alonzo, for letting me share that.
I think that was so awesome the way you nailed it, Ben. And there's a question that kind of connects to what you just said. And the question is, she asks, Mr. Ben, how do I correctly deal with people who are being racist towards me? So, and I think this scripture can kind of point towards that question, but there's a feeling that you feel when it don't feel peaceful when somebody is treating you badly, you know? So how would you answer this person?
Well, I'd want to answer that question very delicately because that's also really tough. So racism is sin. And when people are sinning against us, I mean, we've got to be discerning on what all is happening, right? If anybody was doing something racist towards this questioner that is verbal, physical, threatening, I think that needs to be reported immediately. That's a threat to your safety, to your well-being, to your physical body. That needs to be reported. I do think that we can, in different ways, run into what I would call more of a racist attitude, where someone's just kind of got that attitude about them. With that, again, I'd be discerning. I think Jesus has told us with anybody who, in that same passage in Matthew 5, is one of his hardest teachings. He says, you know, when basically someone asks you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles, was one of our verses from the game this morning. Is he's saying, in some respects, people might have an attitude towards you or request something of you that doesn't seem necessarily fair, but he does say that we need to love our enemies. He says, and pray for those who persecute us in Matthew 5 as well. So I think with attitudes and with people that are just rubbing us the wrong way, I think as best we can, we want to be patient. Proverbs does talk about that when we treat angry and kind of ugly people with kindness, it eventually kind of overwhelms them, and sometimes it will change their own heart. So as I said, that's a really delicate question. I hope I kind of handled all facets of that. I think we're going to run into people that just have bad attitudes. That just don't, you can tell they have some racist feelings towards us. I do as best as I can when I'm in that space to just try to let that fall off my back. But again, I think if it's threatening, physical, verbal, I think that you definitely need to report that to an adult or to somebody, immediately, a parent, and be like, hey, this is going on. This is not safe for me.
I love it. And I totally agree with you. And that's for any of you students. If you ever dealing with any of those things, bullying, any of those things, make sure you report it to an adult, someone in authority. So Ben, you kind of touched on this one, but is there anything you would like to add? You know, how would you encourage young people to engage the world around them in 2020? Anything you would like to add to that?
I wouldn't add a whole lot more, guys, other than I can't remember if I shared this a month ago when we last connected, but I do think that you and I, with the gospel, the definition of the gospel is the good news. I mean, we do, in a world that just seems sometimes like it's falling apart with COVID-19, a lot of the racial unrest and just a lot of other craziness, it can just sometimes feel like where is the good news? But the good news is found in Jesus Christ. The good news is found in his kingdom. And it's the only thing that's guaranteed victory in this world is us, is his people. You know, we can turn, a lot of people are anxious about the elections and those are going to come and go. But even the men and women who rise to power are not permanent people. They come and they go. And so we sometimes put all of our hope in that. And I think the Lord is continuing to draw our hearts to say, no, you know, keep your eyes fixed on me. You do have a message of hope to bring to the world, because kings and leaders will rise and fall, governments will come and go, but his throne is permanent and his power is unstoppable. And so I would just continue to encourage you to engage the world. Like I said, you don't always need to have all the answers. I don't have all the answers, but it's just stepping up again each day, remembering who you are and remembering whose you are, that you are his sons and daughters. You are sons and daughters of the King of the universe. You couldn't be in a more powerful position than that, and nothing can separate you from his love. Nothing can take you away from being his children. You have access to him 24 hours a day. And he does want to do more through you than you could ever think or imagine. So that might sound like pie in the sky, kind of fake stuff, but it's not. It's real. And I think the Lord really wants us to remember who we are and whose we are.
I love it, Ben. And so with that being said, I have a video that I think will depict what you just said. Guys, come on, give it up for Mr. Ben. Thank him for his knowledge, his wisdom, his love. Just kind of let's thank him for that. And I want to give you guys some tools and resources, and then I have a video I want to show you. Pastor has been doing a series on muted voice, and I want you guys to look at that. It's on Facebook. He's helping us to navigate through this system that we're in right now, what we're dealing with right now. And he also has some resources that he's done over the years. When Color Doesn't Matter, Black Man and Biblical View podcast. He has done a podcast. Hey, there are resources out there that Pastor's done. Get Mr. Ben's book, Meals from Mars. That's a great book. So I don't want us to miss it, but check out this video because you're worthy.
From the day I was born, I had one question that plagued my mind, and it wouldn't leave me, so in my late night hours I would try to find a kind of answer to this uncertainty of mine. Do I have worth? So I did all I could to prove that I did. I practiced, I prepared, and I performed. Sometimes I performed well and my worth appreciated, and I knew it because others would tell me. They told me that I mattered, they told me that I was valued, they told me that I was seen. But there was a dark side to these reactions, a cause for personal retraction, a reason that instilled fear behind this glamorous veneer. Sometimes I failed. Sometimes I performed poorly and my worth depreciated, and I knew it because others would tell me. They told me that I messed up, they told me that I had no value, they told me that I was clearly seen, or rather that my mistakes were. So the thought that plagued my mind, it never declined, it only increased like a plus sign. Do I have worth? At times it felt like I did, and other times it felt like I didn't, and I was crushed in the confusion of my chaos. Then that day came. I felt worthless, like a computer that kept crashing, like an engineer that kept rehashing, like a newlywed couple that kept clashing. I was worthless, or at least I thought I was. Then these words hit me: God doesn't make junk. It was hard to admit because I was completely unfit. I was about to lose it as I heard the words of this skit, the words that would later acquit me. God doesn't make junk. A beautiful creature created in the hands of a magnificent creator, and nothing will change this, past, present, or future. I have worth. I may fail 100 times, I may fail 1,000 times, I may fail 10,000 times, but nothing will change the truth that has liberated this heart of mine, that I have worth. And today, I boldly proclaim the conclusion to the question that crushed me like cancer, that freed me when I found the answer, that I have worth. So do you. Because God has created you with worth.
Hey guys.